afternoon and welcome to our first full day of Introduction Intersessions. Yesterday we got to hear from 5 different faculty members across campus about their teaching and research and university learning. Each Friday this summer we will be offering several interest sessions focused on helping our new ducks and their families and all of their supporters get to know more about the tons of resources, programs, and services we have to help you be successful. We have designed these next few weeks to give you information that's paced so you have the time to hear the info, re-watch it if you need to, and discuss it as a family and reach out to our campus partners if you need more information. We've also designed these programs to give you relevant and timely information based on where you are in the transition to the University of Oregon. For instance, today we will be highlighting housing, which we did a little bit ago, the Accessible Education Center, which we're in now, and University Health Services. So you have time over the next few weeks to take action in case that you need to in any of these areas. For instance, if you need to set up an appointment with the Accessible Education Center, you'll have a baseline of knowledge before your appointment with them so that you can get started on the right foot this fall. Today's presentations will vary in time. This one is 45 minutes. And another is an hour long. In a few minutes, I will turn it over to our partners from the Accessible Education Center, and they will go through their presentation, and then we will have time for live Q&A. We also have team members in both Zoom on live Q&A and on Facebook answering your questions if you're a parent or family member watching in Facebook Live. We want to make sure that you use those Q&A features as much as possible throughout the day today so that we can get your questions answered and get you set up so that you have all the information that you need before you start this fall. I'm really pleased to be able to welcome our presenters from the Accessible Education Center today. Hillary Gertis is the director of the Accessible Education Center, and Katie Wolf is the program manager, the Accommodations program manager there in the Accessible Education Center. Please welcome Hillary and Katie. Hi.
Hello.
Take it away, it's all yours.
All right. Hi everyone, I'm Katie Wolf. I'm so glad to welcome you to learn a little bit more about the Accessible Education Center.
Hi, I'm Hillary Gertis. I'm the Assistant Vice Provost for Accessibility at the university and the Accessible Education Center Director, and it's always exciting to be a part of introduction and meet with new students and parents. So welcome today for joining us. So the Accessible Education Center is part of the Division of Undergraduate Education and Student Success, and we are located in the 3rd floor of Oregon Hall. And this slide has a picture of the Oregon Hall sign with a bed of beautiful petunias showcasing how beautiful it can look sometimes of the year. So this session is designed to be a broad overview of what our center does. We hope it will be helpful for both students and parents and families. And what we want you to get out of it is to learn the different ways that the Accessible Education Center partners with students. And our acronym is AEC, so you may be hearing us refer to it as AEC. So in AEC, we'll also talk about the process to establish disability-related university accommodations and the next steps to get started in working with our office. So we know that some of you joining us today may have a long history of using accommodations throughout your education, and you might know exactly what you think will be most helpful, and you might know exactly how you're going to be working with our office. We know there might be another group of you that aren't really sure. You're kind of thinking about it. You just want to check it out. You're not really sure necessarily if you will want to be meeting with us. And then there might be a third group of you, perhaps, who really aren't clear how AEC might be useful for you. So we hope this also will be useful to give you a sense of our resources. If it's not relevant to you right now, it might be later on, or might be a great way to help out a friend or roommate down the road. So at the university, we view disability as a very important part of our campus diversity. And right now we're looking at 10% of our undergraduate students experience some type of disability. And this includes a range of experiences, including this list of students with learning disabilities, students who might experience some attention-focused challenges such as with ADHD, or students who experience mental health issues such as depression or anxiety. So depression and anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder and other types of conditions can rise to the level of severity where it really is disabling. We also work with students on the autism spectrum. So the most common types of disability experiences that we see as far as the highest numbers are students in those first three categories: learning disabilities, attention type challenges, and the mental health areas. We also have students at the university who are dealing with vision disabilities, mobility type challenges, might be hard of hearing or might be deaf, and students who might experience a range of chronic health conditions. So that's just a sample of the types of disability experiences that some of our students have. So AEC supports students in lots of different ways, and we provide an equal opportunity to engage in the university environment. So that's one of our primary goals. We do that through a range of accommodations and support, and are seen as the access inclusion kind of experts around the area of disability on campus. The disability eligibility determination is also another really important part of the role that our office plays. We also have a very important compliance function and see the legal requirements under federal law as a foundation of the work that we do, but really we see that as a minimal standard, and we work really hard to provide more holistic support for students. So we really want to go beyond access and inclusion to student success. So at the university, the way we view promoting accessible education is by reducing or eliminating barriers that students might experience. So students might experience barriers in lots of different ways, such as the physical environment, the classroom setting, how courses are designed, how students are evaluated and tested. Those can create barriers for students. So we think about the importance of universal design, or how we design spaces and experiences to be as accessible and inclusive for as many people as possible. And so where possible, universal design is one of the main ways that we find is helpful for reducing barriers. The other main area is reasonable accommodations. And we see this as a legal term, and it encompasses a lot of different areas. So barriers could be reduced for individuals through modification to policies and procedures, through modifying architectural structures, or through auxiliary aids and services. We have a range of accommodations that we provide here at the university, and Katie's going to talk about the most common types of accommodations that AEC provides to students.
Thanks, Hillary. So we do have a wide range of support and services that are available to students who may encounter barriers within our curricular environments, as well as our physical environment on campus. And so we work with each student individually to determine the most effective support and services to meet their needs. So these might include testing accommodations, assistive technology and alternative formats, note-taking support, issues around classroom access, as well as communication access. So we'll take a closer look at each of these in the next slides. So students who may encounter barriers related to assessments can meet with an AEC Access Advisor to talk about different accommodations that might work to support their access and make sure that they're able to demonstrate what they know on an assessment. So these might include additional time for exams, a reduced distraction environment for taking your exam, the use of a computer to type, or a reader or a scribe, as well as a number of other supports. And for in-person proctored exams, the AEC actually proctors thousands of exams each year. We work really closely with our university testing center to facilitate those accommodations by proctoring exams. So a little bit later on, Hillary will talk about kind of the process for scheduling exams with our office. But then for remote courses, many students might find that they have online exams. And so in those cases, we'd work directly with students and their instructors to make sure that their instructors have the information they need to facilitate accommodations in that setting as well. So either way, our staff is definitely available to support students and staff in navigating how to implement those accommodations. So our Accessible Technology program is available to support students who might need assistance with resolving issues related to assistive technology that they might already be using, or with identifying new tools and strategies to support their access and also their engagement with course materials. So in some cases this might be text-to-speech software or voice recognition software. And then the AEC also facilitates the conversion of printed text and other course materials like textbooks, course materials, into other formats that students can access. So whether that be electronic text, large font, or Braille. And so students would be referred to our Accessible Technology program by an access advisor within our office. So we know that at the college level, being able to capture what's being said in a lecture and refer back to it can be really critical to a student's success. But we also know that students may encounter significant barriers to taking effective notes in class. So whether that be due to processing speed or attention challenges or other issues. And so we have a variety of options available to support students who might be facing those barriers related to note-taking. So first, instructors might be able to provide outlines or their own written notes, or just a copy of their slides. And in some cases, having that to refer to can do a lot to mitigate barriers related to note-taking. With flexible course offerings in the fall, you might find that a lot of your classes are already recorded, or it might be easy to record them. And so in those cases, just being able to pause and revisit key concepts from class can be really critical. And if those aren't sufficient to support access, we can also support students with various technologies available to support note-taking. So whether that's note-taking software like Sonocent Audio Note Taker or Glean, a variety of note-taking apps, and also devices such as the Smart Pen. So a Smart Pen is an ink pen that also captures the audio that's being said and a visual image of your written notes, and then syncs all those pieces together. So lots of different options. And then if none of the technological options work, we can work with students to receive a copy of notes from classes that they attend. So lots of different options there, and we definitely encourage you to take some time this summer to think through how note-taking has been for you in the past, what strategies might be effective moving forward, and maybe even practice with some different methods of note-taking. You can talk with an access advisor about available options through our office, and then you could practice by taking notes while you're watching a documentary or something like that to see what's effective for you so that you're ready for the fall. So in terms of classroom access, we also support students who might experience physical barriers either getting to class or within the classroom. So this might include relocating classes to more accessible buildings, placing chairs or tables, other furniture within classrooms, facilitating amplification within classes, so working with instructors to make sure that that's running smoothly. And then the University of Oregon also has a free on-campus ride service for individuals with mobility issues called the Access Shuttle. And so that's available to students and staff and visitors, but they do prioritize transportation for students to scheduled classes. So that's an option as well. And then lastly, around communication access. So captioning and transcription are available to students who are deaf or hard of hearing, or who might otherwise experience barriers related to auditory processing. And so transcription would be available for in-person as well as remote courses, and we'd work with instructors to make sure that any videos shown in class are captioned. And then for students whose primary language is American Sign Language, we also coordinate and facilitate sign language interpreting for classes as well as other extracurricular activities and events on campus. So you'd want to talk with an access advisor within our office about any of these options that might be of support to you. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Hillary, who's going to talk a little bit about the different ways that AEC partners with students.
Great. Thank you, Katie. So as we mentioned before, that we promote accessible education by reducing barriers that students might face due to disability. And Katie just described a range of accommodations that we provide at the university. And I talked earlier about the importance of universal design, and as much as we can design in our society, be proactive in designing structures and experiences for the widest range of individuals possible, the more accessible they can be for everybody. In our office, we also provide a range of academic access support type of help. This includes things like helping students build confidence in communicating effectively with faculty, helping write that email that might be really challenging to a faculty member talking about a need that you might have. We also work a lot with students on things like time management and organizational strategies. We really find that for a lot of students, that's one of the main areas that they might benefit from support. We also are a place just for general problem solving, general support. If a student doesn't know where to go, we're happy to be that support, and you'll get that relationship with people in our office over time to be that connection for you. We at AEC offer a range of group opportunities, and this varies a little bit from year to year. Most recently, we offered an ADHD learning strategy group for students that might have attention focuses challenges, share stories with each other. We also have a social connections group that works very well for students who might be on the autism spectrum or might need some support around social interaction issues. And we also have done some work with some small groups of kind of peer facilitated support on developing effective strategies for meeting academic goals. One of the main ways we work with students, as Katie mentioned, is through access advising. So throughout your time at the university, you would be working closely with an access advisor in our office who's available to you for the entire time that you're here at the university. Before we talk about that, we do want to take a step back though and talk a little bit about how the university experience might be different than some of you have had in the high school setting, where at the university everything is very student directed. So we really want students to feel empowered to take charge and make your own decisions. So it's up to you if you even work with the Accessible Education Center. It's up to you if you decide to notify your instructors of your connection with us, or even that you have a disability. That's your choice. It's up to you whether you want to use accommodations or not use accommodations. So with all this flexibility and options comes a lot of significant responsibility. So there are deadlines that you need to meet. We encourage you and want you to take responsibility to meet with your instructors. You get to know them, you can ask questions. They all have office hours, they're available. You really want to make those important connections so you can get what you need to be a successful student. And one of the most important things to know too is to let us know if you need assistance. So unlike what some of your experiences might have been in the past, we're not going to be monitoring you every day. We're not going to know if you went to class or even if you had trouble on a particular midterm. So you'll need to let us know. We rely on you to kind of guide the level of support that you need. So one of the ways that we work with you is through the access advising area. And so the first kind of step to work with our office is through your appointment with an access advisor. And at that appointment, what we will do is talk to you about your educational history. We'll ask you about any mental health experiences, what has worked well for you in the past, what hasn't worked well for you, what you anticipate some of your needs might be in the university setting. In some cases, we know it might be really different than what you've done in the past. We might have new ideas, new things you haven't thought about, maybe new technologies, new ways to access your education. So we have a discussion about that. We also like to review supporting documentation. So documentation that supports particular barriers that you might experience, supports requests for particular accommodations. So there's a range of documentation that can be helpful if it's available. So we know that not all of you may have that available. If you have it, it's really helpful for us to be able to see it and review that with you. We get a lot of questions about the IEP, the Individualized Education Program plan, for those of you who aren't familiar with IEP. Some of you might have been on an IEP plan in high school. If you have that, that's helpful. We're happy to have that information. But what we find is most useful is what that was based on. So what the evaluation, the test scores, the information that your IEP was based on is very, very helpful. But like I said before, if you've never even had an evaluation, you've never had some services in high school, don't let that get in the way of connecting with our office. We're still happy to talk with you and be creative about next steps and figure out ways that we can support you. So after we meet with you on that one-on-one appointment with your Access Advisor, we'll talk about accommodations that might be useful for you, other approaches that might be useful for you, and then the next step is to figure out how to communicate that to your instructors. So we do that through what we call a notification letter, and this is the official document that is sent to your instructors after accommodations have been established. So you decide which faculty that you want this sent to. You decide what types of accommodations from those that you were approved for that you will have communicated in this letter. So for example, if you are approved for testing accommodations and you're registered for a biology class and you know there's timed exams and you know you're going to need those testing accommodations in that class, then you definitely would send the notification letter to that instructor with the testing accommodations selected. But let's say that you're in a yoga class, and in this yoga class there aren't any timed exams. You might decide that you don't really need that instructor to know that you're working with the Accessible Education Center. Maybe there aren't any particular accommodations that you need in that class. So that would be totally up to you. So with a notification letter, the other things that are important to know about is that it will not describe in any way why the faculty member is getting this letter. So it won't say that you have a diagnosed learning disability, or it won't say that you had a head injury, or you're dealing with a serious health condition. It just says what the approved accommodations are, and that is to protect your privacy, so you don't have to go out and be explaining your whole story to every single faculty member every term. That's totally up to you to share what you choose to share. So each term, the notification letter is sent at the beginning of the term, and we really encourage you to do that early on. And the way you do that is through our online portal. And the online portal we call AEC Connect. And if any of you are transfer students out there, you might see that our portal looks very similar to many other colleges and universities throughout the country. So many schools are using the same type of database system that we are. So once you get used to it, it's a really pretty simple system to use. So through AEC Connect, that's where you send your notification letters to your instructors. That's where you schedule your exams with AEC, as well as some other types of activities that you can do in the portal. So like I said, we urge students to do this at the very beginning of each term, ideally the first week or the second week. And parents and families, this is where you can also be helpful. If you aren't sure if your student has sent that notification letter, go ahead and ask them. If it's the end of the first week of the term, check in and see if they have done that. Because we find that a lot of students get really busy and it's easy to forget. So it's really important to send that letter if you're using accommodations and know that you need to be communicating those to your instructor during the term. So there's lots of different ways that we support students in using AEC Connect. We have online video tutorials on our website. We provide step-by-step instructions, and we also do individualized support in a range of ways. There are a couple key campus resources that I wanted to draw your attention to that we find students who work with the Accessible Education Center are extremely valuable to them. I also wanted to emphasize that at the university level, offices like ours don't provide tutoring, content tutoring. So the Accessible Education Center is not going to be the place to go if you need help with a calculus assignment or Spanish homework. We're not experts in that area. But the university has many resources that are very good at that. And one of the main areas is our Tutoring and Academic Engagement Center. So they'll be doing an intercession, I know, later this summer. So I just want to urge you to make sure you tune into that and learn how they can be helpful to you. The other main resource that many students who work with our office are engaged with is the University Health Services area. And they provide counseling, a full range of medical care, dental care, and a pharmacy. So many students who are working with our office are also connected with University Health Services. And their intercession is actually later today, so I hope you will tune in for that as well. So coming back to specific steps that are good for you to take at this point in time, We'll be meeting with students remotely throughout the summer. So the first thing to do is to schedule an AEC appointment, and that would be with an AEC Access Advisor. Step 2 would be to send your supporting documentation to the Accessible Education Center. And we really like that to be as current as possible and comprehensive as you have available, but also recognize some of you may have difficulty getting a hold of that documentation, or maybe, like I said before, don't even have it, so that's fine. But if you have it, please send it to us so we can best prepare to work with you and know kind of what to ask and what your history is around that. The third kind of recommendation that we really encourage students to do is to think about how you learn best. So what are your learning strengths? What course design elements really work best for you? What are challenging barriers that you might face? We found over the years that the more you can articulate what works well and what doesn't work well, then the easier it is for you to be advocating for yourself and expressing your needs to not only our office but to individual faculty members. So this is also a place, parents and families, where you can be helpful. You can give ideas, you can share your observations with your student, maybe let them practice talking with you about that. So if this is not familiar to you, if you're not used to talking about your disability or your particular learning characteristics, what works, what doesn't work, this is a good time to do that. Once we work with you, get your accommodations set up, and you're ready to be starting in the fall term, then it's really important to check back with us, because we're here for you for your entire time at the university, but we don't want to lose that connection after we connect with you this summer. So it continues on throughout your time here if you choose to have it do that. So the way that you meet with us to schedule a remote appointment with the Accessible Education Center is by phone, and that number is 541-346-1155, by email, uoaec@uoregon.edu, or through our website, aec.uoregon.edu. And on our website, we have an online scheduling form, and we also have a text-based chat window that can be really helpful to easily set up an appointment. So the main takeaways that we want you to have is we are here for you. If you found anything of interest, and go ahead and make an appointment with us, even if you're not sure. This picture on this slide is just our staff, pre-COVID AEC staff, and we're excited to have you here and welcome you, and we look forward to meeting you. So understand we're now switching to questions. Is that right? Yes.
Thank you, Hillary and Katie. Yes, we do have some questions that have come in from students, and I've been looking them over here on my phone, and so I've got a couple that I think are pretty relevant, and I've got some of my own based on some of the conversations I've had over the years with students and parents. So I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk with the students, talk through the students' questions first. So you mentioned making an appointment with an AEC advisor in the next relatively soon. When should students be doing that? And can you just repeat how students can go ahead and make an appointment with you all over the summer?
Okay, so how students can make an appointment: by phone, by email, by calling our office. Any of those ways would be great. And we're available throughout the entire summer. We really urge students to meet with us well before classes start, obviously. The earlier the better, but our staff is ready and willing right now to meet with students.
Perfect. And so in doing that, they have a chance to talk with you about what has made them successful in the past. And when you talk with a student, do you talk with them at all about the ways in which those strategies and those accommodations that have been successful might be different with a college learning process, or how higher education is maybe different than K-12?
Yes, definitely. We spend a lot of time talking about what the student has found is helpful, but then also bring our own expertise about the university level into that conversation to talk about how it might be different in the university setting. So we know that a lot of students know their experience and know what works well so far, but it might be very different at the university level. Just the structure of classes and how that works can be a real different experience.
You mentioned different resources that students who often use your team also use quite a bit. Can you talk a little bit about how you interface with other departments? One of the students asked about specifically, do you also work with folks in housing around accommodations? Do you work with any other campus partners in accommodations outside of the classroom?
Yes, we work with a range of university campus partners. We work very closely with university housing, so if students have disability-related accommodation needs, we have a process that we help support housing in making those decisions. We work with the library, financial aid, academic advising, career center, counseling center, everybody.
So
yes,
nobody on
you,
campus.
everybody.
So what about, one of the questions I get asked a lot from parents and family members is actually about temporary physical disabilities or limitations, often coming back from spring break or winter vacation where skiing has been involved, or other activities where a student might experience a temporary physical limitation. Do you all help with that, or how do you help students navigate that, or what resource do they use?
That's an excellent question, Cora. And it's not super easy always to answer.
Yes.
But if somebody has a quick illness, like say they have the flu or chicken pox or break a leg, we usually encourage students to rely on other university support services for that. Talk to their faculty member, work with academic advising, work with Dean of Students office. If a student has a experience like an injury, say a head injury that becomes much more serious, or students really aren't able to get the support that they need, then we're always a backup for that and always able to assist students. But we wouldn't be the first kind of place to go to for something that's temporary like that.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And there are other university departments that if I remember correctly, the University of Oregon Police Department offers a resource for students with physical limitations. And do you work with them as well? Am I thinking of the Access Shuttle? Am I thinking of the wrong department, or did you talk about that already?
Yeah, the Access Shuttle through our transportation office, and then I forget the other question.
Yeah, I couldn't hear all that.
Sorry, we couldn't quite hear you.
So the Access Shuttle, though, is something for students if they need a way to get around campus during the day. That's an opportunity for them to make moving through campus a little bit easier.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and they can set up an appointment to have like a regular pickup and drop off, or do they just call when they need it?
Yeah, so students can set up their schedule with the Access Shuttle if they do have mobility challenges, and so the Access Shuttle does prioritize getting students to their scheduled classes. So yes, that is an option for them.
Awesome. One of the things that in my years of doing introduction, have often spoken with parents and family members about it, and that's why I want to bring this up to you so that you can speak both to students and their family members at the same time, which this isn't always true. Is sometimes parents approach me and are worried that their student who has used accommodations in K-12 doesn't want to do that in higher ed because they don't want to have people think that they aren't as capable, or they're worried that people will know something that they're wanting to not have tons of people know. Can you talk a little bit about, I know you spoke a little bit about how the process works, that faculty members don't know why you're letting them know that a student needs an accommodation, but can you talk about particularly with regard to the quarter system and how that can impact a student's success if they aren't using accommodations that they're eligible for?
Yeah, great question. The quarter system, of course, moves very quickly. And so, we certainly want students to feel like they have the flexibility to decide whether or not to connect with our office. But I always encourage students to go ahead and have at least that first meeting. You're not making any kind of commitment. Yeah. It's not noted anywhere. Sometimes students like to go ahead and just document their disability with our office, even if they may not be ready to kind of make that decision right away. But what I always say at introduction, talking to students and parents, is we will always see those students that decided to wait. And on the quarter system, if you have your first midterm around week 5 or 6, it's getting awfully late in the term for us to be able to set something up that late. So certainly the earlier the better. If for some reason fall term comes around and you haven't connected with us and you realize maybe that wasn't the wisest of choices, you're welcome to meet with us in following terms as well. But really, it works well for students to go ahead and start that process, even if you're not sure.
Yeah, it's really important that we say out loud, and we haven't had a chance to do this yet in introduction, but the quarter system is only 10 weeks long, and so unlike a semester system where you get to week 7, and you might have 7 or 8 more weeks left to be able to kind of catch up. When you get to week 7 in a quarter school, you're 70% through the quarter, and there's not much time to be able to catch up or recover a grade. And so it's really important that students set that time up with you all ahead of time in order to just be able to figure it out. If they need it or they don't, they can always opt out. So I just want to make sure that students and families hear us say those sorts of things out loud whenever we can, to make sure that they know. And you're not broadcasting their name across campus or anything. Can you talk, we had a question in the Q&A about how many students use your services in any given year. I think that normalizing the use of the AEC is really important, and it sounds like maybe that's where this question is coming from.
Mm-hmm. So about 10% of undergraduate students, like I mentioned, so we're working with about 2,000 students right now. So it's very, very typical for you not to be, you won't be the only student usually in a class who's working with our office.
Yeah, that's an important note to make, that it's not unusual. You aren't marginalized or an outsider by utilizing the services of the AEC. One question that I wanted to ask of you all, and something that I usually ask of guests on our podcast, is you can find a ton of information on our websites at the University of Oregon, but there's often a tip or a trick that isn't found on a website. There's something, a piece of advice. Do you each have something that you would offer to students that they might not be able to find on our website?
That's a great question.
I know I did a surprise. I asked you a question that I didn't prep you for.
No, that's fine. I think I would say figuring out what you're excited about, and there's going to be an avenue on campus for you to kind of pursue that. There's so many different opportunities on campus, and so figuring out what you're passionate about and plugging in there, that's, I think, what makes college really meaningful. So that was, my experience as a student.
Yeah, and I think just not being afraid to ask if you don't know, and try to figure out where those offices are that are the first kind of entry offices. There's lots of offices that are happy to just send, talk to you, figure out what you need, and then send you to the right place.
That's an excellent point. So, I think of your office. Often you might be a student, a lot of times students will pick their person at the U of O, that they find an auntie or another supporter who's, maybe not a relative, but certainly someone who's on campus who is their person. And often we aren't the experts in everything, but we can certainly help them navigate a problem or find the expert that can help them resolve a problem. And so seeking out your person, your professional person, whether it's a faculty member or staff member or advisor in the AEC or wherever, is a really good strategy for students. And understanding that help seeking isn't a sign of weakness. I think that's another thing that we often face with first year students, is they are hesitant to ask questions because they think they should know it all, right? Hillary, you've worked on campus for a number of years. I've known you throughout my career at the University of Oregon. Can you talk a little bit about what got you started in this career path and why you're so passionate about it?
What got me started in this career path? Wow. Yes, as Cora said, I've been on campus for more than 30 years now, so I've seen many, many students. I think I just love working with students. I love helping them find their voice and become empowered, and where it makes sense to understand their disability identity and watch that development, being able to advocate for themselves. And there's nothing more rewarding than seeing students graduate after 4 or plus years, not knowing for sure, that having the confidence when they started, they weren't sure maybe they would do it. And so I think that's just kind of what keeps the enthusiasm and the passion going, is just seeing these great, wonderful students to work with and success stories.
Katie, I have the same question for you. What caused you to want to seek this career path, working with college students?
Yeah, so I actually got connected with the Accessible Education Center when I was an undergraduate student at University of Oregon. So I've known Hillary a long time. And so I loved it so much that after I went to grad school, I just had to come back. So I just love the energy on the college campus, and I love the way that we think about universal design within our office. I think it has really powerful implications for access and equity more broadly. So I think it's really fun to be in that environment.
Can you talk a little bit? I think sometimes we focus so much on how you all help individual students that we often don't talk about how you help campus partners across campus do better with regard to serving all students. Can you talk a little bit about how you advise campus departments and what you're looking for in providing services that will help support students to campus departments?
Yeah, sure. So it certainly, takes a village. It's not, we're just one little office, one small group of people. So it's really campus-wide strategy development over time for systemic change. But we work a lot with areas like campus planning and new construction, renovation, accommodation issues that might come up in other areas, such as like Student Recreation Center, the Memorial Student Union. If you think about the student experience, it's very broad.
Yes.
All programs and activities of the university, things like our great art museum, our university theater, library. So I think we touch on all of those different components of campus in different ways, sometimes just to remind students or encourage students to remind other offices about the importance of access and inclusion around areas of disability.
Yeah, awesome. I know that you've been a huge help to us over the years, so I know that probably other campus departments benefit from your expertise. I have time for one more question, and I think this is one I know that you touched on a little bit, but it's come in again about submitting documentation. What documentation do students need to do the documents from their high school work, and how should they submit those to you? And just a point of repetition is probably good in this case. So if you can touch on that one last time, and then we'll sign off after that.
Okay. Yeah, so documentation that supports any type of barriers that you might have faced in the past or might be currently facing is what we look for. So as current as possible, as comprehensive as possible. So if you're working with a physician, a psychologist, a therapist, or have records from high school, any of that can be helpful to us. There's no one size fits all kind of answer to that question. Everybody's situation is different. And like I said again, if you don't have the documentation, please don't let that be a barrier to connecting with our office. You can email it, you can fax it. Those would be the primary ways that we would get it, since we won't be meeting with you in person this summer remotely. I can't say hand it to us, but in the fall you also could hand it to us. So
perfect. Well, thank you both, Hillary and Katie, for your time today. I know that we've provided your contact information for students to get set up with appointments with you. We want to encourage students who may need AEC services to get in touch as quickly as possible. It helps them work with academic advisors and certainly get started with working with your faculty members as early as possible, so that we can make sure that you have a fantastic first term at the University of Oregon from day one. So please make sure that you get in touch as quickly as possible. And if you need more help or you need our help in connecting you with Hillary and Katie, you can email us at orientation@uoregon.edu. You can visit our website at orientation.uoregon.edu. You can also text us at 541-346-1159. Thank you so much, Hillary and Katie, and thank you to you students and family members who are watching today. Thanks so much and have a great day.
thank you.
Thanks.